Hello students, teachers and families. I'm Annette Shonwar, Artistic Director of Adelaide Festival Centre's OzAsia Festival. Each year we welcome tens of thousands of people to watch or take part in Australia's largest Moon Lantern Parade. OzAsia Festival's Moon Lantern Parade has a very important history, founded in the traditions of the Mid-Autumn Festival celebrated in many East Asian communities. I encourage you to celebrate with us, and along the way you can find out more about the Mid-Autumn or Moon Festival. I hope you enjoy the short workshop and have fun creating lanterns of your own. See you at the next Moon Lantern Parade.
Hello everybody and welcome to the OzAsia Festival Moon Lantern Parade Lantern Making Workshop. We are here in the magnificent Adelaide Festival Centre Festival Theatre stage. My name's Paula and I'm going to be guiding you through just the basics of how to make a cane and paper lantern. I've been doing this for about 25 years and I started making one of the kind of lanterns that we're going to make. Today we're going to learn just the real basic techniques of lantern making. But then once you've got the idea of it, you can take it into any shape, any scale that you want to. Making our lantern today is going to take 3 stages: construction, papering, and then the decoration. Today we're going to be making a simple triangle lantern. So our frame at the end of this stage is going to look something like this. Beginning our construction, we're going to need a certain amount of materials and tools. We've got the rattan cane, we've got the secateurs to chop it, we've got some scissors and some gaffer tape. Also a little bit later, paper plate and a cable tie. You'll see what that's about. Now gaffer tape is probably my favourite material. It's tape that's got fabric in it, so it's easy to rip. Okay, and we're going to use quite a bit of this, so I've got it lined up along the table so I don't have to stop each time I want some. If you can't get this nice fine stuff, hardware stores always stock something this big, and if you just put your thumb where you want it and pull it up, it'll keep coming off in the same width that you wanted it. We begin with our sticks. Now this material is rattan cane. It's the kind of thing that they make furniture and baskets and clay pots out of. It's great stuff because it's strong and it's really flexible, so it can make any shape you want. If you can't get hold of this stuff, look around your backyard. There's all sorts of sticks, grapevines, willow is really good because it's strong and flexible. But today we're going to be using the cane. We've got 3 long pieces and 3 slightly shorter pieces. We're going to start with the long ones. Doesn't matter if they're not exactly the same size, we're going to be trimming it off later as we go. So we get our piece of gaffer and start at the tip of the tape and we wrap it around nice and tightly. The trick with gaffer is it's not how much you use, it's how well you use it. Nice and tight, and always give it a bit of a push. Okay, once we've got our long ones together, spread them out into our triangle shape. And then we go around with our shorter ones and attach them to the bottom as so. And with our tape, it's about how well we use it. Again, tip of the tape right into the corner. Wrap it nice and tight and do a figure 8. You want that tape to get into all the little gaps and give it a squash in to make sure. And then we just continue all the way around. Tip of the tape, figure 8. I like to remember it, I go crisscross, squish, squash. Okay. When you get to this next bit, it gets a little bit more tricky because you've got 3 pieces of cane to put together. So it's not a nice neat figure 8, but the idea is the same. You want to get the tape right into every little gap. Okay, and if you think you haven't quite got it, Just grab another piece of tape and make sure. Nice. And then we continue around until we have all 3 of our short sticks attached to our longer sticks. And there we have our frame. The next stage is to put a paper plate in, because remember, this is a lantern, and lanterns have to have lights inside them. So that your little paper plate will hold on your lantern. Now, I didn't have any paper plates at home, so I just used an old pizza box and cut it to size. That's one of the great things about this lantern technique, is that you can adapt and improvise with what you've got in your house or at your school or wherever you've decided to make some lanterns. You can see I'm using the same tape, just a little bit, just to make sure that the paper plate is in place. The final thing is our lanterns, especially for the Moon Lantern Parade, where we've got tens of thousands of people watching us, are held up on big long bits of bamboo. So we need to give it a cable tie so that we can attach our carrying pole. Now with the cable tie, you just put it through until you hear a couple of clicks, not all the way through. That's it. And then another little bit of tape just to, so it doesn't fall down like that. Don't worry if it's not looking really neat, because all of this is going to get covered in white paper and no one will see your dodgy bit of tape. To get ready for our papering, we need to trim off all this excess, because the paper goes on wet and anything that's sticking out is going to put a hole in your paper. So we want to cut it with secateurs. If you're little, get an adult to do this, as close to the edge as you possibly can. We don't want too much sticking out into our paper. And the top, if you want it to be nice and neat. But you'll notice that I didn't cut off the little legs that are sticking out the bottom, because we're going to need those when it comes to papering. The next stage is papering. Now this is my favourite because it gets a little bit messy. This stage is going to involve a lot of glue. So make sure you're not wearing your best clothes and make sure you roll your sleeves up for this. All right, I'll put the lantern over here because the materials that we need are glue. Now this is PVA glue, like craft glue, but it's watered down 1:1, half and half water and glue. We also have our tissue paper. Now this is the sort of stuff that you get your sandwiches wrapped in from the deli. So it's pretty easy to get, but if you don't have any around home, a little bit of greaseproof paper does the same thing. It's nice and strong, but it lets the light out. But you'll notice I'm not putting this on the table because this is going to get covered in glue. So make sure that your nice dry paper is on a chair or a bench, just so you're in reach. And here is the technique. Sponge into the glue. Okay. Now, when it's your first time, you're going to learn how much glue, how little glue. You've got to make sure it's not too drippy. All right. Soak the sponge and then we wipe the sponge onto the table. I've also got some black plastic underneath my feet, just in case it does drip down. We don't want it on this beautiful stage. Then we grab a piece of paper, lay it out, and then we repeat the process. Glue onto the paper. Now you'll notice I'm starting from the center and pushing to the edges, because if I start at the edge, that's what's going to happen. So, glue from the center all the way to the edges. And you can be quite firm. The idea is we want to get the glue into the pores of the paper so the whole thing is infused with the PVA. Then we get a second piece of paper and lay it on top. Again, don't get too worried if it's not exactly lined up. Nobody will see when you're standing out in the park holding your lantern up high. And we repeat the process. Glue from the center to the edges quite firmly, and then we pull both pieces of paper up at the same time. Then we move over to our lantern and we lay it over the frame. Now you can see my piece of paper is not going to be big enough to cover the whole thing. That's all right, we'll do the bulk of it and then we'll just patchwork anything that's got a gap. And you want it to stick really tightly to the frame. We don't want to lose that beautiful triangle shape you've just worked so hard to make, okay? So pushing the paper right along these pieces of cane. Bit of overlap, so we'll just wrap it around and stick it to itself. And then when it dries, it'll actually tighten up because the glue has a bit of plastic in it. So as it dries, it becomes really quite firm. And we continue around doing that to all our sides, including the base. Now I've got a little gap at the top, so you might just want to use a smaller piece of paper. And in fact, I'll show you a little trick. Glue half your piece of paper, glue, and then fold it over. Just make sure you get rid of any air bubbles that are formed by folding it over. And then we'll just put it up the top. And there we have our completely sealed lantern ready to decorate. While my lantern has been drying, it doesn't have to be 100% dry, but it's given me time to clean up my workspace because this coloured tissue that we're using is much finer than the white paper, so we don't want it on the gluey table. So I've tidied up and I've got myself some little plastic containers that I can put my little cuttings in. Now I've decided that on one side I'm going to have like a flame or a fire, and rather than draw a single fire and try and cut out all the shapes, I'm going to just make individual flames of different colours and then put them together. And again, I'm going to want maybe 10 or 12 of each colour. I don't want to be spending my time cutting each one individually. So here's a technique. With your tissue paper, fold it over again, fold it over again, and I think fold it over again. Draw your flame shape on your tissue paper. And then cut around and you've got lots of identical little flames. All right. We'll put them in our tub to keep them dry and off the table. Now again, this is slightly different. We're not going to be putting the glue on the table this time. We're going to be putting the glue directly onto our lanterns. So, get the sponge, dip the sponge into the glue, and then wipe it directly onto your lantern. And then we can start building our fire. So I'll just start with some red, and then I'll go an orange. And look how I'm overlapping them ever so slightly. Because remember, when you combine colours, say you put a blue and a yellow together, when the light shines through, it'll be green, and so on. Now I'll add some yellow ones and keep going until you're happy with your design. Remember though, it's a lantern, and lanterns need to emit light. So don't cover your whole surface with colour, because it's just going to block out the light. You want big, bold, bright designs. This is where your creativity really kicks in. Keep going until you're happy with your fire design, and then ever so slightly, because this stuff's very thin, just dab the glue over the top to make sure it's not going to fly off. So here we have our finished lantern, but of course a lantern isn't a lantern without a light. I know some of you have been thinking, how do we get the light in? Once your lantern's dry, pop it over, find a good spot, and with a sharp knife, you or an adult, just cut a little trapdoor in the base, just big enough for your hand and light to get in. Now these are our little lights that we use, and so I'm going to put a little piece of double-sided tape on the bottom of it so it doesn't fall off the paper plate that we put in earlier. Pop that on the bottom, stick your light in and turn it on. And then you can just pop the little trapdoor back up and no one's going to see it on the night. And here we have our final triangle lantern. All different designs, whatever your creativity desires. Remember, there are no rules and regulations about how you design or decorate your lantern. You can make it any shape you like. You can put in any colour or style of design you like. Just remember, it's a lantern and it still needs to emit light. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for participating in this lantern making workshop. I hope you get to love and be inspired by making lanterns as much as I have over the years. It's all about your creativity, your ideas, and your self-expression. So wherever you are, at home, at school, I hope you take these ideas and run with them. And we'll see you at the next Moon Lantern Parade.